Time has passed so much, and the world has changed from my times. So much has changed that the living don't remember the past. The story of my life started on 2nd of October in the year of our Lord 1452 at the castle of Fotheringay. My father was the 3rd Duke of York, and when King Henry suffered from madness, he thought it best to release poor Henry from the burden his throne. I don't remember much about my father, but everybody else thought him to be a rather more capable king than Henry. My mother took me and my siblings, George and Margaret, to London to await my father's moment of triumph and coronation. King Henry wasn't able to fight, but his queen was not about to surrender. On December 1460, my father faced her Lancastrian army, together with my older brother Edmund, at Wakefield. The forces of York were betrayed and then slaughtered. My father's and brother's heads were cut off from their bodies, and they were put on display on Micklegate Bar. The news about my father's death was a great abomination to all of us, but we had to hurry across the Channel. Flight to France was a great humiliation to my mother, although she never said it aloud. 2 months later, my brother Edward paid back the deaths of our father and brother at Towton. He gave no mercy to the Lancastrians. After the battle, 28,000 men lay dead or dying on the ground. Rivers leached blood for days, and the air was heavy from the reek of rotting bodies. Ned was crowned king, and the rubies of his throne were as red as the rivers of Towton. For peace, there was always a price to pay for it, and he was more than willing to pay. He granted me the title of Duke of Gloucester, and George became the Duke of Clarence. And then I thought that the battles were now over, when Ned became the king, but how wrong I was. After the ceremonies, I was sent to my uncle's household at Middleham Castle, and there I met my dearest friend, Frances Laurel, and my future wife and queen, Lady Anne Neville. The drums of war thundered once again at Barnet in 1471. Henry was about to take back what was rightfully his, and thus Ned needed me and George. My uncle, the Earl of Warwick, who had helped Ned onto the throne, wanted to depose him. Anne was given to Henry's son, so she would become the queen, and Warwick would have stronger ties to the throne. I was 18 years old when I set my foot on a battlefield for the first time. The victory fell to the House of York, but that didn't stop the Lancastrians trying again soon. On that second time at Tewkesbury, Henry's son, Edward, the Prince of Wales, was killed. Then Ned entered to London in triumph. Poor Anne had become a widow, and George hurried to have her in his household, because she was now a rich heiress. It was in George's interest to keep her unmarried, so he was able to take control of her inheritance. I wasn't allowed to see her until she vanished completely. I searched for her everywhere, but it was hopeless. Until one day, a servant came to me and told me where Anne was. She was working as a cooking maid in London, and I hurried to rescue her. After I had put her in sanctuary, George's rage broke loose. I wanted to marry her, but George tried his best to prevent it. We were constantly fighting about this matter, and one day Ned told us how our arguing was making him sick. However, I managed to marry her, although I never received George's blessing for it, but it didn't matter. We were happily married for 13 years. I moved our household to Middleham, where we both had grown up. It was the happiest time of my life, and I became a father. The north was quite unstable and a rough place to live, so Ned needed someone to tame the wilderness. And who could be a better person to deal with the north than you, he said to me. But in the end, he realized that the people loved me more than him. However, it didn't matter. The White Rose ruled the north as planned. I felt never at ease at court when I was there, so I only went there when I really needed to. George caused constant disruption, and finally he took one step too far. His appetite for high titles was endless, and when Ned didn't give them to him, he wanted revenge. George started to spread dangerous rumours about Ned's marriage to his queen. There was a pre-contract about a marriage between Ned and Lady Eleanor Butler, which had never been renounced, so the marriage with Elizabeth Woodville was illegal. When George said this, Ned's patience ran out. He was taken to the Tower and drowned in a butt of Malmsey. So the situation at court calmed down, and Ned ruled in peace, until suddenly he took seriously ill and died in 1483. I was in the north at the time, and if Lord Hastings had not informed me about this, I would have never known. Despite his sudden death, Ned had managed to make provision for his children in his will. I was named as Lord Protector of his children, who were on their way to London. Queen Elizabeth wanted to crown her son quickly, although Edward, the Prince of Wales, was too young to rule in his own name. A child king would have been a disaster, and the Woodville family also wanted to get rid of me. There seemed to be no way out from this, until Bishop Stillington brought the pre-contract issue up again, but this time he gave no rumours, only facts. The marriage between Ned and Elizabeth was truly illegal, and their children were bastards. The throne of England was now mine. At 6th of July, in the year of our Lord 1483, I was created the king with the full blessing of the Parliament. Young Edward was furious at this, and he made it very clear. I had no other choice, but I didn't want to leave them without security. The Tower was the safest place I knew, but I did not want to leave them there. For them, it would be better if they would go away from London, somewhere far away, so I sent them off, and hoped that they were allowed to live in peace. Although the start of my reign seemed to be promising, tragedies followed one another. In 1484, my son Edward passed away, shortly after I made him the Prince of Wales. When the news reached me and Anne, the sadness hit us so strongly that we almost lost our minds. She never recovered from it, and she soon followed him. After her funeral, I shut myself away from the court for 3 days. I did not want to see anyone, and the royal duties were left to wait. Every day, since those two souls left this earth, the new dawn was as joyless as the dawn of their funerals. However, a new storm was rising from the south. When Henry Tudor, the Earl of Richmond, sailed across the Channel in 1485, he had come to challenge me as the last one of the Lancastrian line. I faced him at 22nd of August at Bosworth, and there I died, after I cursed my army of traitors